Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Gyro and it is October 2023 and it is time for us to take a look at the top builds that you may not have tried yet in the current league, which is Trial of the Ancestors in Path of Exile 3.22, and there is still time for you to try them. So today I'm going to highlight to you what builds seem to be trending on POE.NINJA in October. First, by quite a bit of a margin, we are having obviously a Ranger Deadeye, 17% out of 96,000 characters that they have registered, at least recorded in POE.NINJA. That tells you something, of course. That's quite a large percentage. Then we have a Pathfinder, also interesting, Inquisitor, Elementalist, followed by Juggernaut, Occultist, Ascendant, surprisingly, very surprised by this, Hierophant, Saboteur and Necromancer, with the trailing list of these ones that you can see. In Deadeye, unsurprisingly, Tornado Shot is actually very prolific. Take a look here. A lot of Tornado Shot builds, which is explaining actually popularity of this build across YouTube. You see a lot of, including my own little unfinished build, attempt. We have some outliers such as Barrage builds. We have some outliers such as Lightning Arrow in this particular construct of a Deadeye, but generally, as you can see, massive amount of Tornado Shots, and we are going to very quickly take a look at a specific build, but at the moment we're just sweeping the whole thing to start with. If we take a look now at Pathfinder, what do Pathfinders use? Well, Pathfinders are slightly more diverse, but not so much, to be honest. They're using Cyclone to activate Ice Spear, but they are activating it not through channeling. Typically, they're activating it on crit. When they crit, that's when they start shooting Ice Spear, these particular builds. It's fun, it's expensive, all of these builds at the top of the leaderboard, as you can imagine, with the top DPS shown to us, like 85 million, my friend. That is not something that you can do as a beginner who invested only, I don't know, under 100 Chaos Orbs or something like this. So, but it is interesting for us to see, and it gives us ideas, I suppose, of what we might want to play. So yeah, you have Ice Spear Cyclone, Ice Spear Cyclone, Ice Spear Cyclone here, mostly to give us an idea. Again, Inquisitor, well, what do you expect to have as an Inquisitor? Spark. Inquisitor Spark is a massively popular build. I have a build of that own as well, sort of to a limited amount of success. I enjoyed it, kind of. It's not my main bread and butter kind of thing, but I sort of kind of enjoy it. And you can see here heaps of Spark builds that are doing very well on DPS, at the very least estimated by POE.NINJA, but at the same time, again, these are very expensive to climb into that kind of category. Elementalist, I play Elementalist when I play Arc Witch, but take a look at this. I was actually amazed to see that we have such diversity of the builds in Elementalist Ascendancy. I would have expected to see Arc. Yes, I would have expected to see Lightning Conduit, as in this particular case I'm mouse overing, but I would have not expected to see Blade Vortex on an Elementalist. I would have not expected to see Ethereal Knives on Elementalist. Like, yes, thank God, we have one Arc here. Good on you, Dia Nazo A. What an odd name, but you are doing well, my friend. You carry the flag of Arc Witch, my friend. Juggernaut, well, I expect to see Righteous Fire, but I see instead Boneshatter. Heaps of bone-shattering Juggernauts. Take a look at this. Oh my goodness. We don't even have Righteous Fire Juggernauts at the top of this spread of the damage. But don't forget that it's now this list is currently sorted by DPS, and obviously Righteous Fire is a very popular, very nice build for Juggernauts, but at the same time it doesn't necessarily at the top end of the game pushes such ridiculous numbers as we're seeing right now on the screen over here. But we have a lot of Boneshatters on Juggernaut. Occultist, let's take a look. I expect to see Creeping Frost, but at the same time, that's within my thing. But instead I'm seeing Ice Trap. Ice Trap Occultist. Isn't that exciting? And isn't that interesting? Because that again shows to us that what we play at a more or less entry-level beginners and casuals, the ones that don't have divines upon divines upon divines and hours upon hours to invest into this game. But apparently what we use, such as Creeping Frost, such as Vortex, such as other kind of builds that kind of come to Occultist naturally, I would say, No, they are going for Ice Trap, which is curious, very curious, and I will shortly show you a build of that as well. Ascendant, I never play Ascendant myself, and I'm not convinced that it is a very solid Ascendancy, pun not intended, but at the same time this also shows you that I'm a casual, I'm not some kind of pro. But even if you're a pro, and we are comparing apples to apples here, because we just saw those crazy billion DPS numbers, here you can see that even those pros that are registered here, they are not even pumping out that much damage compared to other Ascendancies, which I think Ascendancy needs to, or Ascendant class needs to be revamped in my opinion by GGG. It's an underbaked thing. That's my humble opinion. You know, you correct me if you feel like correcting me right now. Hierophant, I love Hierophants for totemic builds primarily. That's what Hierophant really is known as. But in this case we have Ice Spear. That is rather prolific. But in this case, let's take a look. Ancestral Bond. So this is a totemic build by the looks of it. So we have Ice Spear Totems. Ice Spear Totems are fairly popular for Hierophants, yes. Doesn't surprise me too much. But we also have an interesting thing here, that a Shockwave Totem. I haven't done Shockwave Totem build. Saboteur. What do Saboteurs use? Well, traps, naturally, and they are using Ice Trap. Ice Trap is, you would have to say, Ice Trap is rather popular this league across different Ascendancies, but Saboteur is made for mines and traps. Alright, and finally, Necromancer. Surprised that not more people are playing Necromancer this league. Very, very genuinely surprised. Let's see. And here I am even more surprised, my friends, because I would have absolutely expected to have a lot more summon skeletons, summon, like, you know, summon zombies, something that is minion based. It's a bloody Necromancer. But instead we're seeing here Ice Trap at the top. What? We have Ice Spear at the top. What? We have Discharge. What the hell is that? We have Dark Pact. Okay. We have Summon Skeletons. Yay! Finally a proper Necromancer over here. Good on you. Pull stop. I don't want to play. Now an example of this outstanding sort of, or standing out of the crowd Deadeye build in Trial of the Ancestors League is the Barrage and Lightning Arrow based build, not a Tornado Shot for a change. We are taking a look here at the top of the leaderboard, person called No Name Hero. That's how you read this interesting word in case you're interested. I will link all of these builds in the description in case you want to take a closer look. I'm not going to go through all of this. It is just an example of the fact that the person clearly invested quite a lot of divines into this. But we have a Barrage and Lightning Arrow and a pretty good layout of different skills that they're using. Example of a Pathfinder build here is a Cyclone activating Ice Spear. So take a look at this. Even if you see here on the side, if I may say so, if I may highlight this to you, Cyclone is doing DPS estimation of only 81k, and then Ice Spear that's activated through Critical Chance Strike is doing 86 million. That's just some kind of just perplexingly a crazy amount, but who knows how much Bakajaru has invested into this particular build. Now this completely beefed up Inquisitor, Spark Inquisitor by Iva Spark is pumping out allegedly 600 million DPS. What? And is based purely around Spark. The good thing about Spark is that it's a fairly single-dimensional, like one-dimensional kind of builds, but it doesn't make them cheap or easy to push to those kind of heights. But here we have a very good example. I know I love Arc, but I have picked up one of the main kind of prolific builds this league, which is the Lightning Conduit based build. Why I'm not so keen to try this particular one, Elementalist build, is because Lightning Conduit does nothing on its own. It requires a shock to be already applied on the enemy before it hits the enemy. So you have to have all these complex mechanisms built into it in order to apply the shock first, and then the Lightning Conduit hits. That's generally, and I know it may sound silly, but that's generally what holds me back from those kind of 1-2 builds. I prefer a single skill based builds. Here is another beefed up to an crazy extent build of the coming from Bairanji of the Boneshatter Juggernaut. You can see that at least a rough estimation of the DPS, he is in 1 billion, process that. And there you go, we have here Divergent Boneshatter, melee physical damage support, fortify support, things that you would expect from a purely physical build that is right in your face, and that is all about the strikes. My general issue with Boneshatter is first of all that it's complex because it hurts you as well as hurting the enemies, and secondly it's a single target attack. It's not an AoE attack unless you transform this build accordingly, so it's definitely not an easy build. Here we have an example of those really odd, in my humble opinion, witch occultists that are using Ice Trap as opposed to something that would fit into an occultist build a little bit better, such as, in my humble opinion again, something like Vortex, something like Cold Snap, something like Creeping Frost. But here it's a very good example again of a well-to-do 660 million DPS occultist build linked in the description. Here is a weirdly named character called Small Brain using Ascendant class, and here is a good example of a power Siphon build that's doing reasonably well within high millions, but again this is not billions, and this is if you're chasing big numbers, and if we were to judge by these big numbers, that's kinda nothing to write home about particularly, but as I already said to you, there are other reasons why I'm not convinced by to roll an Ascendant. Shockwave Mark 1, what a great name. Here we have a Hierophant build that is a totem based build, and it's a Shockwave totem based build. This is without a doubt something that I probably would play with and try and make cheaper, obviously not pumping out 250 plus million DPS, but something that would probably be cool for people who like to play with totems. I do generally, and the beginners of Path of Exile. Here we have an example of a Saboteur that uses Ice Trap, also probably expensive, all is in expensive uniques, Mage Blood Belt. Just check how much that costs on the market and you will know what I'm talking about here. And you are most welcome to take a look at how he built it or she built it. And finally the underrated Necromancer, that is a weird Necromancer as well by the name of Pulse Stop I Don't Want to Play, who is using Ice Nova and Frost Bolt as a Necromancer Ascendancy. It is just weird to me. Let's take a very quick look here. He is or she is using Summon Skeletons, thank God for that. So that is something that Necromancers certainly should do. They are using Volatile Dead, very interesting, so that's why they're summoning Skeletons. And everything else does not seem to be heavily based on the summons, which is odd for Necromancer, but apparently it's trending there, so that's another build for you to take a note of. And that's it, my friends. Very simple, quick kind of overview of the trending builds in October 2023, sort of towards the end of the Trial of the Ancestors League. Let me know in the comments down below if any of these piqued your interest and if you are going to give any of them a particular try. Or maybe you have tried some of those that I specifically talked about, and maybe you can help me and other beginners of Path of Exile and casuals who are genuinely hanging out on my channel to see which way to go and which way definitely not to go, such as should they try Boneshatter, should they try Hex Blast or something like that. And I will get back to you next week on something else Path of Exile related, no doubt, because the league is not over yet and there are plenty of builds to choose from. Thank you for watching today, subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you next time.